This Audios Visual is a podcast engaging photographers and contributors of the sphere. And today we have a special guest, Keo Soko.
So I am a registered tax practitioner.
For someone who's watching this and they have an idea, what's the very first thing that they should do before registering a business?
How are you going to know how to grow it? How are you going to know what you need to change? Damn. So you've got your business account, you've got your personal, everything's all in one place. You've priced the job at 10,000, but your expenses were 15,000. So you actually didn't make any money. How will you know that you are actually operating at a loss? You'll only know that if that's already separated from your personal anything.
Today we have a special guest in that it's someone that we're going to learn from in a different way, not about cameras or technicalities, but about admin, something that we all hate. But today we hate to love it with Keo Soko, co-founder of Simple Slips and also a registered tax practitioner. Keo, welcome to this Audios Visual. How are you feeling?
Thank you for having me. I feel pretty fantastic. I'm quite excited for 2026. I think it's going to be a fantastic year.
Dope. She set the tone.
Yeah.
For this interview. So Keo, for someone who's watching, they're seeing your face for the first time, hearing of Keo Soko for the first time, can you briefly just introduce yourself?
So I am a registered tax practitioner with SAICA, and I've been an accountant for about 14 years now. I know I look very young, but but I've been in the game for 14 years, and I've been practicing tax for just as much. So I've been dealing with, SARS, income taxes, your company registrations, everything. And then in recent years, I did teach myself how to code. So I am now a self-taught coder. And yeah, that's basically myself in a nutshell.
Yeah, you picking all the hot stuff, coding, numbers. Yeah. While we were running to the cameras, you thought, let me deal with the numbers. I remember being in a subject called EMS. I don't know if it's still called that.
Yeah.
But I hated that. I have a memory of me just sitting in that class thinking about school holidays. So what were you doing in EMS, or what made you so passionate about numbers and pushed you towards understanding all of these things that have to do with accounting and finances?
Well, I'm not going to lie. My mother is the one who said, you need to go do accounting, And I thought, oh my gosh, this looks so boring. And I started the classes, and for some reason, I got it faster than most people. And I understood the concepts really, really quickly. And I started to pick up that, sometimes moms do know best, and she knew that this would be a good fit for me. And as the classes went on and on, I started getting better and better. And I realized that, this is a career for me. And I can't think of myself doing anything else. The other day I was telling people, I wish I'd done biology to be a microbiologist. But I figured out that, this is where I belong. Sometimes you think you can see a career in a person. So sometimes when people see me and I say, oh, I'm an accountant, they're like, oh, I can tell, Yeah, so it fits me. So I'm definitely a numbers person. That's why I gravitated into coding and still staying, a practicing accountant and tax practitioner up till today.
Sounds like a journey, man. I'm scared of numbers, but it's something that I'm trying to overcome, hence this conversation.
Yeah. Yes.
And so we're trying to get creative entrepreneurs to understand the administrative side of entrepreneurship and all of these things that we do.
Definitely.
So for someone who's watching this or is going to be listening to it and they have an idea but no structure yet in terms of a creative business, what's the very first thing that they should do before registering a business?
So you need to understand what it is you're doing. Are you going to be consulting? Are you going to be freelancing? Are you going to be a solopreneur? Those things are things that you need to understand yourself first, before you take any step. Because people start, maybe they have a job and then they're thinking, oh, let me just, do a side deal. Then you don't really need to register a business. Then you can just start. You don't need to go and register anything. Just start your side hustle and start kind of selling and doing what you need to do. So that's the first thing I think you need to think of is, do I want to do it as a solopreneur, or am I a freelancer? Am I a consultant? What am I doing? And that's the question you need to answer. The second thing is, you need to also make a choice of how are you going to keep a record of all your expenses and incomes. What are you going to use to invoice people? What are you going to use to, do your bookkeeping and your admin? So that's another second thing that needs to be thought of at the beginning. Well, from a business perspective, obviously, if you're a creative, you've got an idea, you want to sell clothes or you want to sell your time, which is a big thing. Then you need to understand, going forward, how am I going to keep track of all of these things? Do I need a separate bank account? Will I be able to use my personal bank account and still can I differentiate between lunch with my mom and some friends and a business lunch? Can you differentiate those things? Those things are very important for you to think about before you even start and set in place.
But how does one know, okay, they know they want to start a business, but okay, they're in front of a CIPC page online. They want to decide, should I take a PTY or sole? Well, what's it called? Solo?
Like a sole proprietor?
Yeah. How do you make that decision?
So, that's a very personal choice. Both carry different tax implications. I always say to people, anybody, whether you're creative or you want to just sell some shoes or whatever it is, whatever the case may be, I always say to people, how much of a tax liability do you want? Because when you're in front of CIPC, so CIPC, you can only register companies, and that is when you get a PTY limited. A sole proprietorship, you can just start. Anybody can just start. You can just stand up right now and go and sell shoes. You're a sole proprietor. You don't need all those technicalities behind to get started. And I always say to people, start there first. Because obviously the tax will be on you because you are the sole proprietor. But it's okay. Don't be scared to do that, because when you register a company, you initially you create a new entity, because a registered company has its own ID and it's got its own tax number. Therefore, you need to pay tax as Andy, and your company has to pay tax as itself. So now you've got two people to worry about. And when you're starting out, I would say the biggest thing is to lessen all that extra rah-rah in the background and try and focus on getting your product out. Getting your invoices out, getting yourself paid before you register anything, to be honest. So that's where I tell people, start there, just start. Get yourself a website, do what you need to do first. And then if you're picking up and you see that you're dealing with maybe companies that require you to have a registered company, then let's talk to an accountant to help you. But then you start to think about a structure. But just starting as yourself is completely fine as well. You don't need to run to CIPC as your first point of registration.
You don't need to run to the man.
No, absolutely not.
Do creatives actually need to register a business immediately, or is there a stage where it's okay not to? But I mean, you've kind of encompassed this.
Exactly, yeah. So there is absolutely no rush for you to start a business. What I do suggest you do is you have your, let's say, Capitec account. Go and open another savings account with Time Bank or something, or another Capitec savings account, but that has its own card. That's what I suggest, and that's the starting of the business, because you've already done the hard thing, which is a lot of companies, a lot of small businesses, you'd be surprised that they don't do. They don't separate personal from business. So what you're initially doing is you're already setting that that precedent before you do anything, that you've got your business account and your personal account. You don't have to open something that necessarily says business account. It could just be Andy Swamkosi's second account.
But then I know, like in conversation, some people feel like if they submit on an invoice like a Capitec personal account, they feel like you're not being you come across as not professional to the other person.
Absolutely not. In my 14 years of being an accountant, I've never looked at a bank account and be like, oh, personal bank, not going to pay into that. Never. It's just, you've got your name and you've got your bank account details, and that's that. You'd be surprised how many people do use that structure. They don't have a registered company, but they just have a separate business account, personal business account, where all the business expenses go and where they get paid into for business, and they use just that, and that's worked perfectly fine. And I think in the creative space, I think sometimes it is something that is expected, because we don't expect creatives to register business. You show up, you take some pictures, and that's that, and that's you. And then we just pay you wherever we need to pay you. So there's nothing, there's nothing I can say that, just putting your name and your bank account details, nothing unprofessional about it.
So like in that context, Nikki, where you're keeping track of the day-to-day, how much cash flow you're making, what type of systems then, if you haven't maybe have an app yet that you've registered to, how do I, as Andy, so starting out as a solopreneur, keep up to date with, okay, this is the amount I got, or I need this amount to, how do I, just for myself?
It's very difficult. Because everything is digitized, but let's say you want to just start forward. I would say get one of those big files, those ring files, and just have the months in there, and keep plastic
sleeves,
things, and you fill them up with your receipts. And then if you've got invoices that you do, so obviously I'm assuming that you have access to maybe an Excel spreadsheet, or Excel on computer, where you can kind of prep your invoices. There are free templates online that you can search for some, that kind of give you an outline of an invoice, albeit a bit generic, but it does get the job done. And you can use that to create your invoices. And then once you've sent them out, you can maybe print them out and file them. So, your little folder will have January, February, March, April, like that. And then you'll have your invoices. The January invoices go under January, and all the expenses go under there. Then February, you'll have the same. And then if you have to approach an accountant to help you with your taxes, you've already got that folder. They already know all the January information is under January. All the Feb information is under Feb. So you'll probably keep track of your invoices, your expenses, and your bank statement from the 1st until the 30th, or 31st, or 28th in some cases. And then you'll have that in there. Those are the three most important things you do need, because there are some expenses you're going to have that you wouldn't have a receipt for, like bank charges. That's only going to be on your bank statement. So those are the things that you're going to have to keep in your file.
So how often do I have to consult this data that I'm keeping, and when would be the right time? Because money is people take it personal, and especially creative. So when do I let a Keo in?
I think as early as possible, because they are more equipped, or accountants bookkeepers are very equipped in kind of advising you on how to do certain things. Maybe you might not be able to price jobs correctly, or you just need kind of just that pathway. They're able to provide that support and that knowledge base, because you don't want to get to a point where you're in trouble and that is the only time you seek. I don't want to lie to you, but that is where we make our most money. When we're trying to catch up 3-5 years of books, then our invoice is like that big. But if you had started with someone and you've consulted with someone, it's not just I can't say that accountants can get a bit pricey. But then you've got bookkeepers. There's a difference between an accountant and a bookkeeper. You can consult a bookkeeper, and they are quite affordable. And just try initially. You don't have to consult them all the time. Just to set up, get them and say, listen, I'm starting this business. This is what I'm doing. What do you recommend? Get that knowledge as much as possible. Just get a coffee or something, and ask them to just guide you, and then take that as Bible and go forward. And the only other time you'd have to see them is, tax season. That's the only other most important time, I must say, is tax season.
Tax season is scary, but we're going to get to that. So, okay, we've spoken about this. What documents or info should one prepare once they decide, okay, Ngoku, I'm going to register this thing formally?
So in order for you to register, so now you're going to register a business completely. You just need to have a certified copy of your ID and a name and an address. And you go into CIPC and you can register your company. They've made a great kind of easy system for anybody to follow. So you wouldn't really need to consult with an accountant or a bookkeeper or anybody to be able to navigate the website. And it's about and you need $125 to register a company. And I think it's 75 rands or 50 rands for a name reservation, so that you've got your name together and you want to reserve a name for your business. It is absolutely possible for you to just have a registered company without a name. So if you just have $125, that's all I got.
Serious? So is it possible to register without a name?
It's possible to register without a name, but it's not possible for you to reserve a name without a registered company. So you can't reserve a name and then you don't have a company to tie it to. So you could have a company that just starts 2026 / and then all the numbers behind it, and it just doesn't have a name. So you could just give it whatever name you want. But if there's a certain name, like this audio is visual, you want to keep that name to yourself, you go and you reserve it for $50. So it all in total, I think you need $200, and then you need your certified ID copy, an address, and an account with CIPC. So you'll sign up for one, and maybe an email. A Gmail is fine, and then you're good to go.
I saw towards the end of last year, you were saying that you had registered for copyright, or might not be copyright, but
trademark.
But I don't know if you can speak to it, because I get it, it's the creative industry, and I would assume that in some instances, I would want to, what did you say it was? Trademark. This audio is visual, yeah. So what does that process look different to registering initially for a business?
Not really, because it's all done on the same platform. You've got a patent, a trademark, a copyright. Well, usually things are copyrighted. My website that I built already is copyrighted. I mean, I don't have to go and kind of register it as a copyright, but it's already there. But things like names and patents, and you have a shoe design you want to patent and stuff like that. On the CIPC website, there is an IP, intellectual property area where you go in and you register. It's also fairly simple. You talk yourself through it. It's a bit difficult. You might have to ask help from ChatGPT every now and then to understand what certain things are needed from you. But if you already have a registered name and a registered business, then you can tie, the patent to that. So for me, it was a fairly simple, I didn't have to upload anything because CIPC already had all my documents. They had my ID, they had my address, everything. I just went on to the IP side. And I said, this is the name of the company. I want to trademark it and, tie it to this. So let's say, for instance, I build a certain software or a certain piece of code that I want to trademark. That's a little bit of a lengthier process because I've got to prove that, this is my piece of code. It is not, generated by AI or anything like that. There's a lot of steps that you've got to prove. But if you want to just register your name, then that's a bit different. Yeah. So it depends on the context of what you're trying to get registered.
So before we get into the taxes deep now, I want to understand, like, I get confused, VAT, tax, like, which one are we supposed to be registering for? Like, do you have to be at a certain, like, bracket to be a VAT paying citizen? Do you choose for yourself? Like, what's the vibe? What's the man saying?
So here's the thing. People think if they're VAT registered, then they don't have to pay tax, and that's a lie. Everybody pays tax everywhere. So income tax, company tax, you have to pay it. You are already registered for income tax. Whether you're working, you've got a tax number. Everybody has a tax number. If you've registered on the SARS database, if they've caught you, then you've got a tax number. So VAT it's voluntary if you're earning, let's say per year, you have 50,000, okay? And you earn about 50,000, 60,000, just over 50,000, that threshold. You can voluntarily sign up for VAT. Now, what VAT allows you to do is it allows you to transact with other VAT vendors. There we go. So it allows you to transact with other VAT vendors, and you're able to claim VAT on invoices you've sent out. So if you're a VAT registered vendor, right, you send an invoice out, you always have to charge an extra 15%, whatever the VAT rate is at that time. I mean, it's gone up from 14% to 15% now. It was almost 15.5. But we have 15%, all your invoices, so you charge 10,000, you have to add 15% on it. And that is going to be your total invoice. And then the person that you're invoicing is now able to claim that VAT back on their taxes, not on their taxes, on their VAT returns. There's something called a VAT return, VAT 201, that companies, if you're VAT registered, you have to submit. Some companies submitted monthly, some companies submitted bi-monthly, every 2 months. Every 2 months, not bi-monthly, I don't know what you call it, but it's every 2 months, then they will submit a VAT return. And on that VAT return, you have all your income for the 2 months, and also all the VAT allowed deductions. So when I say that, I mean your suppliers are VAT registered and they invoice have the correct descriptions on it, and the VAT numbers on there clearly, and your VAT numbers on there clearly. There's a certain step that you have to check on those invoices to make sure that you can claim these back from SARS. So the 15% that you've got out there, there's some 15% that you get back. That's basically what VAT is. And every 2 months you submit your VAT returns. Now, just because you're VAT registered doesn't mean you're exempt from tax. So you do VAT, you pay your VAT, and at the end of the year, you still have to pay tax. So it's, unless if it is a requirement for you to be VAT registered, if you're earning just over 50,000, it's voluntary, up to 1 million. Okay, after 1 million, it is compulsory. If you're bringing in 1 million, you have to be VAT registered.
So before that, it's up to me if I want to register.
If you're over 50,000. So if you're under 50,000 per annum, you're not even a blip. You're not even, don't worry about it. But once you get over between 50,000 and 1 million, okay, anytime, if you look at your annual income over a period, and you've earned maybe 800,000, it is your choice if you want to be VAT registered. I mean, there are benefits, to being VAT registered, like you get to claim back 15% of all the other VAT. But the people that you interact with also have to be VAT registered in order for you to be able to claim back. So that's the trick.
So it's like a game, a money game.
Exactly. But then if you get to 1 million, then that's when it's compulsory. So you can trade for a while, which I don't recommend, but you can trade for a while until you get on SARS's radar. They will come for you and they will say,
they will come.
They will say, listen, guys, you need to get VAT registered now. You're making over 1 million a year. Okay, so that is the threshold. So it's up to you, honestly. I know that some guys get big contracts and with VAT vendors and they want to be VAT registered. Don't rush until you absolutely need to or want to. Then you can be VAT registered. Don't complicate your life with too many taxes that you have to pay. Creatives, I know you get a bit, frazzled by numbers. So I wouldn't suggest rushing to get VAT registered. I think if and when the time calls for it, then do some more research, consult a practitioner or an accountant, let them help you with understanding the VAT law.
And like over the years, like from dealing with people generally, even creative entrepreneurs, what's the biggest mistake you see people make when starting out?
So the biggest mistake is people not taking their admin seriously, and thinking that SARS will only be a problem for them when SARS comes and asks them questions. I think you need to already know your structure when you start. You need to already know that this is what I'm doing, these are my invoices, this is my bank account. Those things need to be in place before you start trading, my honest opinion. And the mistake people make is, you've got your Capitec account, you've got all your groceries there from USave and Checkers, and then you've got somebody paying you in the same account, and then you need to now use Uber to travel to these people, put petrol in your car to get to a client, and now you cannot differentiate what's what. You give it to an accountant, you give them your personal account, personal bank statement, and they're like, well, what's loan? You've got some money coming in here, but is it from your mom? Is it the income? What's happening? And you just can't remember. Who's going to remember? I can't even remember what I ate last week, Wednesday. How am I going to remember what I did in April last year? So that's the biggest mistake. I think you need to already have that structure in place whereby it's separated before you even start. You need to think about the business as a separate entity from yourself, even though you are the business. Think about it as its own entity. It makes its own money, it has its own expenses. That is how it needs to stay.
So essentially it's like a whole different organ. It's like a kid.
Yes, it's like your child. Because, if you don't do that, how are you going to know how to grow it? How are you going to know what you need to change?
Damn.
So you've got your business account, you've got your personal, everything's all in one place. You've priced the job at 10,000, but your expenses were 15,000. So you actually didn't make any money. How will you know that you are actually operating at a loss? You'll only know that if that's already separated from your personal anything. So you know that the business has its income, it's got its expenses, and you're able to price the jobs better. It can get to situations where you even negotiate better deals for yourself. You can negotiate with suppliers. You can add certain things, like with this audio. You've got the podcast, and then one day you decide, I want to brand some sneakers, to grow the brand or something like that. You will know because you've got all your numbers, set up. Even if it's just bank statements, invoices, and expenses, like I said, you will have those numbers in front of you, and you'll be able to kind of make these decisions. Oh, I can grow the business. I can add a little extra. Maybe I can even go to school and do an extra course, because the money I'm making from the business, is there. I know it's there because it's not sitting in my personal account, mixed up with all the groceries stuff and, giving your mom some money or whatever. Then it's not tied in with all that. Then you know exactly where your business stands.
Damn, dude. Because essentially what you're saying is that numbers give you enough information to tell you whether or not you're pivoting or you're lacking,
yes, exactly.
Falling behind.
And it gives you that thing that you need to make decisions on the fly, because you already know what's going on in the account.
At what point do you actually need to start paying tax? You've been running around for a long time from the man. When do you get a grip?
When you start paying tax, the minute you start getting your first invoice paid, The minute you send an invoice out and your invoice gets paid, that is a taxable
Even if
income.
even if you're not registered.
Even if you're not registered.
So you wait. So you need to start paying tax whether you're a business or not. Obviously as an individual, but then now I'm an individual running a business.
Yes, so everybody pays tax. Any rand that is made in South Africa is subject to tax. Whether you are a salary earner, so if you're a salary earner, then you have to pay tax via PAYE. If you have an income, a business that generates income, you pay taxes, but they have their own kind of. It's not going to be a company tax, because companies, the minute you register a company, you have to pay tax on whatever you've made in that company. When you're a solopreneur, freelancer, okay, you are making an income. You have to pay tax, but we are taxed on a sliding scale. So individuals have their own sliding scale tax. Then you've got your company tax. It is PAYE, but the PAYE kind of weaves into the personal tax. I don't know how to say it without confusing people. But the minute your invoice gets paid, there's a tax liability on it. Any money that you make in South Africa, make like you in when you're trading, not borrowed money, not when you start trading, you've traded a service for an invoice within South Africa. You need to know that it is subject to some kind of tax.
So what are returns, and like when do I get a return, and why do I give SARS a return?
So SARS is not privy to everything that you do. So that is why they like employees, because employers have by law tell SARS, these are our employees. We've got 15 of them. This is what they've earned, and they've given that information to SARS. Now you guys who are your own solopreneurs, you are not able, SARS is not able to get the information from you. You have to declare it with a return. You have to say, listen, SARS, hello, how are you? I've made 50,000 this year, but this is also my expenses against this 50,000. So technically, because remember, SARS will tax you on your profit, not your income fully. Your profit, meaning your income less your expense. That bottom line is what you're taxed on. If it's a loss, obviously pay no tax. But if you've made a profit, there's a calculation that we need to do for you.
How big should that profit be in order for you to start?
A profit can be super big, super small, it doesn't matter.
But when there is a profit is when you start, when they'll say, okay, Shampi, let's say after my costs at the end of the year, maybe I'm left with a profit of say 20,000 rands on my bank account.
Yes.
So how much of that 20,000 should I give back to SARS?
So that is where you will consult with a tax practitioner to help you calculate your tax liability based off of that sliding scale. So if you go on sars.gov, I think that's the invoice, sars.gov.za or sars.za.gov, one of the two. If you go onto their website, you will see there's some tabs on there. You've got your individual tab, you've got your company tab, you've got different types of tabs. You click on the individual and you can actually see the rates, okay, on that individual based off of what SARS thinks, because I think it's about 95,000 something that is tax-free. And then anything over and above that has a calculation. So I think it's 18%. And then you jump to another bracket, and then it's a bit more. And you jump to another bracket, and it's a bit more. So that's what I'm saying. It's on a sliding scale. The more you earn, the higher your tax liability will be. So my thing would be, don't confuse yourself too much. Do consult with somebody, because then you might think, oh, I fall in this bracket, I should be fine. And then you file your own tax return. And then, you find out that you didn't do it the right way, or you could have saved yourself some money, or you now owe SARS money. And when they want their money, they want their money.
Eesh.
So I would say that consult with someone initially just try and understand where you fall into. If you've got a registered company, what happens to my personal taxes? What happens to the company's personal taxes? And get that knowledge base for yourself. Once that's done, then you can make a decision going forward. I would really love to give everybody a clear path on the pod, but I'm not able to because everyone's situation is so different. The best advice I can give anybody is that, just try and consult with someone. Even if you don't pay for their full services, just for a consultation, just so they can have a look at your books and try and set you on the right path. And then from there on, you can make decisions going forward about how you're going to approach it.
And what's the biggest tax myth you often hear from creatives?
That gifts and sponsored trips are tax-free, or they don't have to pay tax on them. You have to. So they're declared kind of like a fringe benefit. So say for instance,
When you say gifts, does that also include grants and stuff?
No, that's completely different. I mean gifts like, say if they fly you somewhere and they place you in a hotel. Now obviously there's a threshold. If it's under 5,000 throughout the year, then there's no value to it. But if it's over 5,000, you're flown somewhere and then you're given that benefit, it should be declared at its value. So it is a good idea. Say for instance, TAFE, I'm an employee of TAFE, I get flown over to Cape Town to go shoot some content or something. But then it was for the flights and everything, maybe amounts to 10,000 Rand. I can ask for the value of that because I'm going to have to declare it as a benefit on my returns. Because it forms part of your income from these people. Because you're not just getting paid this certain amount of money, but you've also been given this benefit. That to SARS is seen as income. So that is the biggest myth I hear all the time.
That is wild. So in the context of grants then, a lot of creatives get sponsored in the form of money to do projects and stuff. How does SARS view grants and funding?
As income, but they would be on your return. So there's different types of incomes on your returns that you can declare. So some of us have salary incomes, some of us have trading income from a sole proprietorship, some of us get annual bonuses, some of us get grants. So a grant would have its own little code that you can declare to SARS. Whether or not it's taxable, I don't want to say something that's gonna have my hands up. But like I said, circumstances are different. So rather let us, speak to someone who can help us and to look to our specific case of what we're doing. Yeah.
Do you mind defining for me provisional tax? What is that?
So provisional tax, okay. So I said in the beginning that everybody in South Africa who has a tax number has to pay tax. And what SARS realized is that if we keep waiting for people to get to tax season, people don't have money to pay their income tax. So what did they put in place for us to be able to reach that tax liability and to be able to pay the tax? The first thing would be your PAYE. So if you're a salaried person, you would know what PAYE is. If you've earned a salary before, you know what PAYE is. They take money from you and you complain every month. But basically, it is to prepay your tax liability. That is what PAYE is, pay as you earn. So for instance, you're earning 150K annually. There's a certain amount of that 150K that you have to pay the SARS. They already have an idea at the end of the year, during tax season, this is how much you should have paid. But because they can't give you all your money and then give you a tax bill at the end of the year and then you're going to have to figure it out, they tell your employers, pull out certain portions of this money every month so that when tax season comes, this person's already paid their bill. And there's a possibility of they've overpaid or underpaid, then they can just, patch it with that little bit. Prof tax works the same way. Because you are your own boss and you don't have an employer who's taking bits and pieces every month, you have to pay provisional tax. So you're prepaying your tax before the tax bill happens. So provisional tax is paid every 6 months. So your first provisional tax will be in August, and then your next is coming now in Feb. So you're just prepaying. So what you'll do is, so the tax year for SARS runs from March to Feb. March to Feb next year. So what happens is from March to August, you have an idea, or from March to July, let's say, because you're still in August, you have an idea, or you've got actual numbers of March to July, how much you have earned. And you're going to tell SARS, I've earned this much, and this is my expenses, but I believe this is the tax I need to pay based off of these 5 months. This is what I need to pay. So then SARS will take it and say, okay, we're happy with this, pay this amount. So it sits on your income tax as a prepaid tax amount. The tax hasn't been, we haven't finished the year. Your tax hasn't been done. You're just provisionally paying for what you think your tax will be. So that will be the first one. Then in Feb, you'll have the full year, 11 months. And some of February. So in Feb, you can now calculate how much did I earn from March previous year up until Feb now, well today. This is how much I've earned. My profit was 2,000 something. It's very unlikely that your profit will jump from 2,000 to 50 million in a few days. So you then declare that to SARS and say, my full taxes will definitely be 2,000. You submit your provisional tax for 12 months, which is now going to happen in Feb. And that's that. Tax season opens, okay? You do your tax return, your ITR 12. You submit it. They're going to check, okay, this person needs to pay 3,000 rands based off of this tax return. But they've already paid provisional taxes of 2 point something. So they only need to just pay a 500. But if you do your taxes and you only have a profit of 1.5, but you've already prepaid 2,000, that is when you get a refund back from SARS. So that is exactly what provisional tax is. Because people get confused like, oh, this is provisional tax and income tax and VAT and all of this is just too much. Provisional tax is just you prepaying your tax. Everybody, every year has to pay tax or submit a tax return. And from that tax return, some of us who are employed have already paid, and then some of us who are not fully employed and, are freelancers or whatever, you need to, be a provisional taxpayer so that you can cover your tax bill. Because if you don't submit your provisional taxes, tax season comes, you get hit with a 20,000 rand bill. How are you going to pay it?
Oh, it's almost like you're paying ahead.
You're paying ahead. So you're declaring your income way before. It's estimates, basically. You're estimating based off of your books. That's why it's so important for you to keep track of what are your incomes, what are your expenses, what's going on in your bank account, and separately from your personal account. Because you're able to, figure out from there, okay, I've made this amount of money, this is the profit, I can declare this to SARS. And you pay your provisional tax and they keep it for you. When tax season opens up, you file your tax return. You can either pay a little bit more or get a refund back.
I remember we once had a conversation where you were like, since you work from home, I can't remember the exact term, but
home office expenses.
Yeah, like explain like what you meant by home office expenses.
So home office expenses, this is a big one. Basically, off your home, there is a deduction against some income that you can, take from your taxes to reduce your tax liability. And home office expense happens to be one of those deductions. There are stipulations you have to obviously take off to be able to qualify for them. So I'm not going to get into that too much, but I'm just going to explain in a nutshell home office expenses, what it is. So you've got a home, you've got a 100 square feet home, but there's only a small portion of that that's used for the home office, where you've got your laptop and your TV and your table, and you've got a chair. You need to calculate what square footage that little spot is. And once you have that, all your expenses must be done at that ratio. So for instance, you've got a square footage house of 1,000, and of that 1,000, only 100 of that is used for home office. Therefore, I don't know what's the ratio of that. Just 1 is to 100, 1 is to 1,000, I don't know. 100 is to 10 is to 1. 10 is to 1. Then what you do is all of your expenses are 10 is to 1, like your rates, your levies, your electricity, 10 is to 1. Anything that has to do with the home office, 10 is to 1. So if your electricity bill is 10 Rand, only 1 Rand of that is a home office expense, basically. Yeah. So you also need to prove that they're very strict on home office expenses because of the COVID. A lot of people were working from home, so a lot of people were claiming during the COVID period, or was it 2020 or 2021? Yeah, 2020. They were claiming a lot of home office expenses, and SARS put a stop to it. So now every time, you have to claim for home office expenses, you have to prove to them that this is the square footage of where you live. This is the size. You have to make sure that they don't decline anything. Because if you are really using that as a home office expense, your own house, then you are entitled to that money. So proving it is not going to be a problem for you, because you've already done the legwork. You know your square footage. You've now collected your house plans. You've drawn there where your home office is, or you've got a room that's specifically dedicated for home office activities. And then these are your rates. And here's the ratio between your rates. This is what you paid for personal and business, but this is the business portion of it. That's how it works. That's how home office expenses work. Yeah.
I've always wanted to get some clarity on that, because where the money is. Okay, we already spoke about the importance of separating personal and business money.
Yeah.
And this is a very basic one, but I think it could aid a lot of people. What should a proper invoice include?
So when you send an invoice, just make sure it does say invoice on the top. Okay, it should include your company name or your trading name. It should include your address. How do people contact you? So it should have your address, it should have your email, and it should have your phone number. Then on the same invoice, you have the client's name or company name, and you have their address and maybe their contact details on there. You have to have those things, because if you get chosen for an audit, then they have to validate your invoices, or if SARS has to validate if the person's received the exact amount that you're saying, because it's possible for you to send out an invoice for 10,000. And then when it comes back, you kind of reduce it a little bit to make it like a 5,000 Rand invoice, just to undercut your income, or So if SARS chooses you for an audit and they want your invoices, the person that has received, or the recipient of the invoice, must be easily contactable by them for them to verify the validity of your invoice. So have your client's details fully on there, have your own details on there, have your banking details on there, and make sure you describe what kind of service or that you've done for them. In the line items, you have a line item there. You'll say, I shot this for them, or I did this, or I sold some tackies or whatever. You've got your quantity, you've got your amount, and you've got your total. That is the basics of a viable invoice. Yes, ma'am.
And is it better to pay yourself a salary, or just withdraw money from the business month to month?
I think paying yourself a wage or salary. Say, for instance, your company, even yourself, even if you are a sole proprietor, you can register for PAYE. So when you say pay a salary, you are saying that, okay, I'm gonna pay a salary, but I'm gonna deduct the PAYE from my company. I'm going to have a PAYE number, and this is going to be the salary to myself. That's usually the safest way to do it. So you're a sole proprietor, you get a PAYE number, you prepay all your taxes, and you pay yourself a salary. That is 100%. Withdrawing money and taking money out of the business as a business owner, it could be for different things. You could be paying yourself back a loan that you've loaned to the company to start. You could be just pulling out money for yourself. But monthly, to stay on the safe side, I would suggest do collect a salary, but pay your taxes on that salary. So even if you are a solopreneur and you don't have a registered company, you as a solopreneur are able to sign up for PAYE. It's possible. You get a PAYE number, a UIF number, and an SDL number. You don't really need SDL so much, but you do have to pay UIF, which is the Unemployed Insurance Fund, which is a percentage of your salary every month, like 1%. And then your company will match it. So it's 2%, basically. You're going to pay 2% to UIF. And then your salary. So you pay the salary, and then you just declare every month to SARS, PAYE. Yeah, that's the safest way, I think, to do it.
And then, like in a case of like I render services from Wandi and he renders services from me, I guess what I'm trying to get at is like how are taxes like incorporated in like freelancer working with another freelancer? Is it on that freelancer who's getting paid to make sure that the taxes are in order and are paid out at the right time?
So your taxes are your responsibility. And if you get paid for a service, you've traded initially in South Africa. Therefore, that trade is, you have to pay tax on it. Unless if you can have deductions against that income, then you can obviously reduce the profit and then you get taxed on the profit. So you don't have to pay for anybody else's taxes but your own. It's just your responsibility, basically.
And then we get to systems, tools, and simple slips. So what problems did you notify in the market that made you start simple slips? And if you could just like briefly speak around and about it.
So simple slips started when I used to get a lot of freelancers approaching me for help, especially in the creative space, funny enough. But a lot of freelancers, a lot of consultants coming to me for help when they're under fire with SARS. So they received the SARS letter, they're very scared, they're worried, and they need me to help them. And, they've got all this income, but no expenses, or rather no audit trail of anything. And it used to frustrate me a lot because as an accountant, now we've got to rush and try and figure out what you did, where you did it, where's the slip for this, where's the slip for that, because I do know that when we submit your tax returns, there's certain cases that come to me that I know definitely for sure. When we submit this, we're going to trigger an audit or verification. And it always happens like that. Sometimes we're lucky and SARS is like, no verification, no audit, you're good to go, here you go, you're done. But majority of the people that come to me, they're already in a little bit of hot water, they're already on the radar. So they'd be maybe like triggered for an audit or verification. So now the onus is on me as your bookkeeper, your accountant, to submit that information on your behalf. And if you don't have it, what's going to happen? That means that all those deductions are not going to be allowed and you might actually pay more than what you actually were supposed to. maybe your profit was only like 5,000, and now we can't find your slips, and the deductions kind of fall away because we can't prove those deductions. So SARS takes it back up to 15 or whatever the case would have been, and now you've got to pay that money. It's basically a penalty, a tax, for not keeping your books together. So that was my problem, because people would be telling me, no, but I bought this equipment and I bought this, and this should be tax deductible, and it is. Where's the paperwork? How are we going to prove to SARS? You can't walk in there with your camera and say, here's the proof of the camera. They're not going to pay attention to you. But if you've got the invoice for it, nowadays it's very nice because, when you buy from Take-A-Lot and that, they give you these receipts via digital, but not everything's digital. Sometimes you still get a piece of receipt or slip or whatever. Then, you can digitize it with simple slips, basically. And the app is supposed to help you keep those receipts on there. So when you do approach an accountant or a tax practitioner, everything is already there. Yeah.
So I want to download the app. Where do I find it? And I'm interested to see this app and use it.
So we are on iOS and we're on Google Play. But we also have a web app that you can log into. So if you go to our website, simpleslips.co.za, you can choose which one or any one of the three. Try it out. It's free for 30 days. There's no credit card required. You just start your account, start scanning, start using it for invoices, and start getting your admin up to under control. And then if you like it, you stay with us a little longer. If not, then that's all right. But there's always, I'm doing this thing where I call it building in public. So I'm building the app as we go in public. So if there's people who have certain features, requests, things that they want on the app that would make their lives a bit more simpler, with SARS, with their bookkeeping, with following up on payments, because the app is infused with so much AI. We have a chat on there. We actually have a little chat button on there called the Tax AI bot, and you can click on it and ask it questions, and it will give you answers based off of SARS information. But it's only as a guide. It's not really, it's not going to give you full proper advice like how a tax practitioner would, but it gives you the idea that, okay, I think I can do this, and it's a guidance for you. So so basically we're on there 30 days free trial, and then if you like it, you carry on. If you want more features, on the website at the bottom we have a feature request section where you can put in your email or not. If you do put in your email, I'll give you a shout out for the feature. We'll tag you for the feature, and you can request what you're looking for, basically.
Nice. So basically Simple Slips makes admin simple.
Admin simple, yes. Because at first it did start off as just a receipt scanning application. But the more we spoke and did our research and spoke to freelancers and solopreneurs, because that's the people I wanted to mostly work with. Taxpayers are taxpayers. They will be able to use the app. But we wanted to focus a lot on the solopreneurs, because they're the ones that were kind of sometimes falling a bit behind. They were in this in-betweeners whereby you're not yet a small business where you can get QuickBooks and your Zeros and your Sage Pastel. So you're not there yet, but you're also doing enough that you need some sort of support. And I feel like that bunch of people were not being looked at. So when we spoke to them, their biggest concern was, can I quote on the move? Can I invoice on the move? And getting paid and getting the money in. That's the biggest thing that they were focused on. And so with that, we took the app and we're like, okay, this is what the people need. And we built a business hub where you can do the quotes on the move, and you can do your invoicing on the move. And then to approach that getting paid part, we have the smart reminders where they type up an email for you if somebody hasn't paid you or your invoice is still outstanding. Then the smart reminders will pop up and say, AI has written this email for you. Check it out. Do you like it? Can we send it to client to remind them to pay you? Those were the concerns that our solopreneurs had. And sometimes it's very difficult as creatives to pick up the phone and phone Makubane and say, you owe me money. Where's my money? It's very difficult for you to do that because you also want to maintain a sense of professionalism about yourself. So sometimes people do get scared to pick up the phone and call. I've been doing it for years. I'm a regular debt collector. I will collect anything. As an accountant, you also do a bit of debt collecting. And you call the client up, ma'am, you haven't paid this invoice. When are you going to pay it? So for me, I have no anxiety over that. But for somebody starting out, they have a bit of anxiety. And we wanted to help them with that by having the AI draft the email in the back. You can go on there and approve it and say, oh, okay, maybe let's be a bit nicer here. Let me go back and add, please, will you pay my invoice? Or something like that. And it'll have that populated email. And all you have to do is click send. Send to client, and then it'll send to the client. And after a week, if you still haven't received anything, the reminder will pop back up. Would you like to send another reminder? Like that. And then you just keep on top of it until someone's like, oh my God, I'm so tired of you. I will pay you your money.
I like that. We need more solutions like that because it's a wild, wild west out there. Yes. There's so much information on the internet that you need someone who's sat down, sifted through it and you have the experience and in the know-how. We had questions from Instagram and YouTube, but I think we've answered them. Yeah. I'll just tag when I edit that, okay, this is for that particular person.
Perfect.
I want to open it up to the floor.
I've got a question. It's a very specific question to me, but I'm sure someone else does have that question. Credit, how does one get credit? One as either a small business or as an individual, or would you rather have someone try and get credit as a bit I don't know, as a person, or rather than as a business? Example, as an artist, I am registered as a business, as an artist.
Yes.
But then it's very difficult for me to get credit from the business. Would it be worth it for me to pay myself a salary and build up credit as one?
110%. That would be the best way for you to do it. I think that even if you don't have a registered company, you do need a set of financials to apply. So every year you're going to have your 12 months. It's going to show all your incomes, all your expenses. Let's say, for instance, because I know you've got a registered company, so it would be in your best interest to start taking and paying yourself a salary and building it up, because then you've got your pay slips ready to go. And you can determine how much you're getting paid from your own company. You're the boss, So on the other hand, if you don't have a registered company, then you need to get financial statements done. You need to have a bookkeeper, an accountant to draft these for you. That's why you've got your file with all your slips in it, or you've joined Simple Slips and you've got everything on Simple Slips. You just approach your bookkeeper, and they will create a set of financials for you. And that is okay to get credit with from the bank, because all your expenses are there. You've got your income, you've got your expenses, you've got the notes there, you've got your closing banks, you've got your cash flow. So annual financials are just proof of what's happened, because somebody else has also produced them for you. They are now stamping and saying, we've done the annual financials for this person. This is true to what we've done with our checking. Please, take this in when you give them credit. So that is fine. On your case, your business can apply for credit as well, because if you have financials for the business, it'll definitely be able to get credit. And if you pay yourself a salary, both of you guys can get credit. So if you as one delay don't get, the car loan that you want, maybe your business can get it. So now you've now separated the two things. You've got your great annual financials here, your business is making money 100%, and it's paying you the salary, but then the bank is like, oh, this is too little, this is little bit of salary. Then you can say, okay, the company can then apply for it. And both of you can apply for credit. Yeah.
Do you think that like creatives don't take advantage of the for lack of a better word, the advantages that come with having a business bank account that's accumulating money? What are the, like, because it sounds like I could even get a lease using my business account. It sounds like I could get buy a car like on credit using my, like, what are we overlooking, like, when it comes to, are we not taking advantage of?
I think it's just the lack of understanding that, you know, you only need a payslip to get these things. If you had approached, you know, a bookkeeper or an accountant at the beginning, they would have explained to you that, you know, the importance of having your annual financials and the importance of keeping proper track of what you've been doing. So what happens there is people don't know that they can do that. People don't know that they can use annual financials to apply for credit. Man, this is what, you know, I've been an accountant now 14 years. This is what the big guys are doing, okay? A lot of the credits and things are not in their personal names. They're buying houses. They're using annual financials because the business is the one that's making the money. And it's self-sustainable. You find that your business is making 300,000, 400,000. It's like a giant on its own. Why would you use your payslip that's only like 20,000 rands per month to get this, you know, access to these assets? So, you know, that is how people are doing it. So you shouldn't think small. When you're a creative entrepreneur, you're still an entrepreneur. So don't think small, don't put yourself in a box. Look at your financials. See if you can approach somebody to get you financials and so that you can get access to better credit. And I think, you know, and feel proud and confident that, you know, you've done all the work, you've been earning money. You could get a company car, you can, you know, get a lease. You know, whatever will help you. The annual financials will definitely.
So you're saying it's essentially like when one pays attention to the numbers, there's a potential of building like a sustainable thing.
Yes.
Because you have information that can guide you to, okay, now I'm doing ganja, I can get a car, I can, you know, aim at buying a house can you buy a house under a company name? Like a house that I can stay in?
Yes, you can buy assets, you can buy cars, you can buy property. There are companies that own properties. You can do anything with a company. I think, you know, you just said something now. I'm struggling to, because I was tying onto it, but now I've forgotten what you said. So we can move on.
But like
I'll remember.
it's just like to get clarity that, because my thing is to prove that this thing can sustain one.
Yes, to sustain. Yes, that's why it's important. Exactly, that's what I was trying to say. That's why it's so important for you to move the business and personal and keep them separate. So important because you're able to really look at your business. I mean, really look at your business health and see from that, oh man, I'm making extra. I've got profits. Maybe I should get into the t-shirt business. Maybe I should invest the money in something else. And those things, maybe I should get an asset. Maybe the company can pay a monthly, you know, installment of 3,000 for a vehicle. You know, you are not going to know these things if you don't keep them separate. It's so important for you to separate them so that you know what is happening with your business and how to grow it and how to use the business to get access to all these other things.
So I've been trying to be intentional in, like, when I invoice, to include things like the profit, okay, let me place it like this, Keo. So I have this client, they want me to do a job, but I'm also cognizant of the fact that I have to pay costs, have to factor size and stuff like that. I'm a creative, like, how do I make sure that I factor these things and also not feel like, hey, Shabon, Hona, no, I'm charging too much. But you know that you factored all of those things. Like, should we hide it in the numbers? Should we be blatant about it? Like,
So there's a thing called a markup that you can use. So some people, like for instance, if they sell products, they will buy a product for a certain amount, for $100, mark it up, and they use that markup for everything. That just kind of simplifies. So they'll mark it up and say, okay, this was our cost. This was $100. We've got a markup of 25% on everything. So now we add 25%, and this is our selling price, right? So with you, because of the jobs, you get the what do you call it? So somebody comes in, tells you, this is the job. You get all the information. They get the instruction. You're going to be shooting here. It is going to take you these many days. We need this much equipment. You're going to take all of that into account, and you're going to say, okay, I need to be there 3 days. I need accommodation. How much is that? You write it down. That's the first thing. You look around Airbnb, get an average, or if you've got an idea of where you want to be, then you take that amount and you put it in there. Then that's your first expense. Your second expense, I need to get there. I need to fly there, and then I need Ubers around there. You can check on there how much is it going to cost. Just like an average. There's only so much you can do. There's only so much you can plan for. You get an average of the travel, and then your food and everything, and then you've got now a total cost of it, and you just add your markup on it, and then you price a job. That's what I think.
okay, wait, but the markup, am I hiding it? Or
No, that's your price.
Because I get it like online, they're like, GPT tells me like, no, you have to hide it. Don't want to.
Well, you're not going to put it on your invoices and say markup 25%. No.
And also there's something new that I like recently understood, that like your client facing invoice and the company facing invoice don't necessarily have to reflect the same descriptions, but when in the company facing one, you kind of need to understand how you factor the numbers.
Yes, exactly. So that's why I'm saying, like, if you can have something like a cover sheet of per job, because you guys work with jobs, a cover sheet where you've got, and you can use it as a template all the time. You've got accommodation, travel, food, you've got all those listed items, and you do a bit of research. How far is it? How many Ubers must I take? What is it going to cost me? And you put those in there, and then you add a markup on top of that, and then that is the sweet spot. Maybe your markup is 35% or 40%. Some people have markups of 80%.
Is there like a limit range?
Absolutely not.
I just can just suck it off my thumb.
You can suck it off
40% on that. Yeah.
40, 50%, whatever you like. You put your markup on there because that's your price. Because now immediately when you get that money in, you've already calculated how much the expenses are going to cost you of that money. And then the 50% markup is pure profit. You've made money on that job. Immediately before you even, unless if there's other factors that happen where you haven't planned for it. So you get there and then you find it's actually 4 Ubers instead of 2 Ubers. Then you should leave some bit of leg room for yourself. To make sure that you're still making some money. So I wouldn't put the markup at 10%, and I wouldn't have put it at 15%. 25% is okay. 35% is the general. People like 35% or 40%. And you've got that cover sheet. And then every time you finish a job, come back to your cover sheet and check there. Did I really spend $200? Did I really? If there's places where you got a lift and you didn't have to use an Uber, you've saved on that money. That money is part of your profit. Do you know what I mean? And then you get better at it, because the more you do it, it's a muscle that you exercise. And the more you do it, the more you get. You can even start pricing jobs just like that, because you're so used to your numbers so well, you can just price off the top of your head. So it is a muscle you have to train. Make sure that you always, for each job, don't let the client tell you how much they're going to pay you. You do your calculations. And then let's say they have a suggestion and they say, my budget is 5,000, and you've looked at your expenses and you've you've trimmed the fat as much as you can, and it's still like 4.5 of expenses. You're just going to make $500 on the job. Maybe try and open the plan, try to open the communication with the client and say, can you be flexible on the budget? is there something, we can do, or can we do a little bit of the job now, and when you get money later, you understand what I'm saying? It gives you that negotiating power, because now you understand, no, man, I'm not going to make money on this. And the whole point of entrepreneurship is to make money. Let's not sugarcoat it. It's for you to be self-sustainable and for you to make money. And if you're not making money, why are you entrepreneurship?
Basically, we're here for capitalism.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you just need to, if entrepreneurship is too difficult and you can't, negotiate or whatever, I suggest you get good at it quick. Otherwise, come and join us there in the salaried.
I think a big part of it as well has to do with pricing with confidence.
Yes.
Like, I think clients in the creative industry get an upper hand because a lot of creators, when it comes to numbers, they don't want to feel like, I'm charging Keo too much.
No, never.
Let me tell you, I don't care anymore.
Never feel that way. If you know and you've done your research, that should give you confidence. If you've planned the job, they've told you where it's going to be, you know how long it's going to take you to be there, you know your expenses. If you've already built up all of that, use that as a confidence booster for yourself to say, I'm going to stick with this because I know for damn sure. Can I say damn? Yeah. Okay. I know for sure. I know for damn sure I'm not going to make any money on this. And so, I know creatives just want to be creative. You just want to just spread your creativeness with everybody. But you need to also self-preserve, and you need to look after yourself and make sure that you're not being taken advantage of. Because I know how corporate can be. I know how we strong arm people into getting paid a little less here, trimming the fat there. We don't become fat cats by paying you what you do. We become fat cats by so you need to look after yourself. Make sure that you've got all that stuff supporting you from the background, and then when there's some pushback from clients, it's okay. Then you can't afford me.
Clock it, girl.
And
Clock it.
then you can't afford me, because don't bring yourself down, because it's very hard. It's very difficult. You take a job. I'm just going to give you an example. It's a personal example, because on top of being a bookkeeper, and being an accountant, I've also done some side hustles as a bookkeeper. Okay, and and when I started, I was so scared. I had my website ready to go, and I was like, wow, I'm doing my own thing. And pricing was particularly very difficult for me, because I was scared that, people would look at me and think, oh, she's just she's just not a real accountant. And I am. I've got the credentials. But, I was doubting myself a little bit. So I'd price very, very low. I'd tell people it's only $250 and $350 and $500, because I was so scared. But the amount of work that came with doing those taxes was so much. I would literally cry every day when I had to do these things. So somebody, I had multiple sources of income. So there's all these things you have to do to get their taxes done. And I was like, oh, it's only going to be $900. And they were like, wow, that is so much less than what I've been charged before. I've been charged like $3,000 and 2.5, so $900, that's a steal. And I didn't realize how that would chip away slowly at me, because now the amount of time I've put into it was way more than 900 rands. And when I got it, it didn't even feel like anything. I just think I wasted my life doing those taxes. And I think, if you keep doing that, there's going to be nothing left. So you absolutely need to make sure you price correctly and be confident in your price. And if the job gets hard, because sometimes the people who want their taxes, they want it right now. They will call you day and night. They will call you at night. They'll call you in the morning. They'll call you during the day. They'll send you emails. And you're thinking, for $900, I can't do this.
Yeah, that's true.
So it must be for an amount where it's like, wow, I'm having a really tough time at this job, but the payment is worth it.
Clock it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for real. Like, I think My last question is,
Yes.
what advice would you give to someone, a creative entrepreneur in 2026?
Have the audacity. Have the audacity to ask for more. Have the audacity to demand more. Have that audacity to go for things that people, laugh at you for or don't take you seriously about. Have the audacity to go for what you want to achieve. When I told people I was going to teach myself how to code and create an app, everybody laughed. Like, people were like, you can't do that. You have a full-time job. You're a wife. You have a small kid. How are you going to do it? And, that was something I used every day to push myself. At night, when people were sleeping, I would be like in tears learning how to code on Python. And, and it was very difficult because I'd be sitting up at night and, getting like a piece of software wrong, or just something's not working out, the computer. It's just you and that black screen and those numbers. And you're just thinking, I'm not cut out for this. But you are. You're cut out for anything that you put your mind to. So if you are a freelancer, solopreneur, you're just starting out, it seems a bit too much. There's too much information coming at you and people are not paying you on time. It's okay. It gets better, and you get better because you grow within the company. So my biggest advice is have the audacity to ask for more and to demand more.
Thank
of
you.
yourself and of people.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank
Yeah.
you, Keo, for having the audacity to start the app. Thank you for your time.
Thank you
and
so
I
much.
hope you can do more building in public, you said?
Building in public.
Through
Yeah.
our platform and people
Yes.
who will, one or two, even if it's one or two, that like takes upon simple slips and tries what it's all about. And I'm hoping that we can have more more conversations in different ways around like finances and creative entrepreneurship.
Yes, definitely. Thank you guys for having me.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Tave. It was a pleasure to speak to you today. And, I hope that, we have more of these. Maybe we'll get more questions after. Maybe some people will be more interested to explore a little bit more. And we could, come back together, maybe see each other before Prof Tax.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.